Hello, it's me from the worst generation of humans, Gen Z. Not since our days as primates have we been this awful or stupid. Which means I'm the perfect person to talk about NES games. Let's see, I grew up with PlayStation 3 playing Call of Duty games, my first Nintendo console was the Switch, and I wasn't born during the release of the NES, SNES or Nintendo 64, so it's perfect! In fact, the only games I've sunk my teeth into are the ones that I've played on the Switch, or the ones that I've done for the channel. So why not subject myself to NES games and nothing else for an entire month? The games I've chosen, I've tried to pick a good mix of genres, and there's no easy targets. I've only picked games that are considered really good, because I do hope to enjoy them. Also, I'm recording and editing these as I play through each game, so I'll either get a greater appreciation for Nintendo as the video progresses, or I'll get progressively more jaded, slowly descending into madness. Right, my Gen Z body is ready. I've got my favourite vape juice, I've spent all my Virgin bucks, and I've used my Twitter account to get people fired. So let's get started with The Legend of Zelda. The Legend of Zelda intends to encapsulate the feeling of going on a grand adventure. The part of the adventure it encapsulates is the part of the adventure where you're stuck in the middle of nowhere, crying to your mum on the phone because you can't get Google Maps to work. You've got a map less detailed than Pong, areas like the Lost Woods which repeat screens over and over again until you get the right pattern, hints that are rare to find and badly translated. It's a game that's cryptic to the max. Bombable walls look identical to walls you can't bomb, and because they're a consumable item, you can run out of them, having to either grind enemies for bombs or for rupees, so you can buy even more. If they just made the map more detailed and had cracks in the wall or something to show when you could actually bomb a wall, it would have been great. But look, even if I caved and used a guide, which I did, I was still irritated by the dungeons. The first 4 or 5 are okay, but later ones hit you with a huge difficulty spike. You've got dark nuts that you can't hit head on, wizrobes that fire devastating magic attacks at you, and enemies that will steal your shield that I spent ages saving up for. This would be fine if I wasn't respawning with only 3 hearts, locked to 4 directions of movement, and didn't have a weak sword that Link just pokes enemies with. This is not helped by the repetitive rooms and music. The overworld theme never gets old, but the dungeon theme... I think The Legend of Zelda is a great time capsule of where the series began, but other than just curiosity, I see literally no reason to go back to it. Though I didn't like The Legend of Zelda, I'm still feeling positive, so let's move on to the next NES game, and let's grab onto some DuckTales. Don't do it. Don't sing along. DuckTales! Woo! God damn it. Now, seeing as I've been negative, let me tell you, DuckTales is good. I like this one. Yeah, the pixel art looks great for the NES, has little animation quirks I really enjoy. I was honestly expecting just a standard platformer of going left to right to beat the stage, but DuckTales really subverted my expectations. You get to explore these areas, finding secrets to help you get to the secret ending. One of the stages even has mirrors that teleport you to different parts of the level. Scrooge McDuck himself uses a cane to attack enemies, or to bounce up to higher places, adding a very unique platforming mechanic that I actually really enjoyed. The music, let me tell you, the music is also a bop. Wow, I'm actually having a great time. Nothing could possibly irritate me. I have to start the game all over again. Fucking NES.
I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it.
I actually had a really good time playing DuckTales, and I wouldn't mind giving the remaster a go. but first I've got a lot of NES games to play. I'm ranking these as I go along, so DuckTales is better than The Legend of Zelda. I'm currently 1 for 1 in terms of enjoyment, so let's hope the next game doesn't disappoint. Let's play some Punch-Out! This game is basically a boss rush, where you have to fight one boxer after the next to get to the champion belt. The gameplay is really simple and quick to understand, but it's deceptively deep. Enemies will act more like puzzles, with certain techniques being used to take them out. But how do you know what type of moves that these enemies are going to throw at you? Well, that's actually quite easy to tell, because the sprite art is impeccable. It's so detailed with certain animations telegraphing what attacks are coming. There was not one point where it felt cheap, and it was so fun to try and master. Every time I failed, I just wanted to get better, get straight back into it, and pull off those oh so satisfying star punches. But do not get me wrong, this game is unbelievably difficult, like to the point where I couldn't even beat it. I spent so long on Piston Honda 2 that I was starting to believe that he wanted Little Mac as his little snack. The bosses are all super memorable. Yeah, they might be stereotypes, but I will never forget these. And that music, oh my god. This track is perfect for getting me pumped up, and I swear it will go with anything that comes out of the 80s. Well, this is my favourite NES game so far. I'm really optimistic, so hopefully nothing goes wrong. There's probably not a franchise that has more entries on the NES than Mega Man. With 6 titles, it was an obvious shoo-in for me to try. I thought I'd go for the second one, as it is often considered the best. Now, the cool thing about Mega Man is the boss weapons. Each boss is weak to a certain boss weapon, so it's a real rock, paper, scissors type situation. Problem is, there's only one weapon I found worth using for the rest of the stage. The stage's difficulty is a bit problematic. You've got the first 8 stages, which are way too easy and too short. Then, in contrast, you've got the Dr. Wily stages, which you're expected to do without getting a game over. These aren't too difficult either, if there wasn't such a penalty for dying. What tips me over the edge though is the weapon energy. The only way you can replenish energy is by getting random drops from enemies. This would be fine. Problem is, the last 2 stages include a boss rush and have no weapon drops at all. There are even 2 bosses that are unbeatable without a certain weapon, so if you don't have full weapon energy going in, or God forbid, make a mistake, because you're only human, you have to start all the Wily stages all over again. If you could just start every Dr. Wily stage, and every time you die, come back with full weapon energy, this would completely solve the problem, and I would genuinely have no issues at all with this game. But for that, you're worse than DuckTales. The music though, it slaps. Harder than my dad. To be honest, just listen to the whole soundtrack. It's truly NES music in its prime. Metroid Prime is a game that I played for the channel, so going to the original I was interested to see where it all began. Now first off, I just want to apologise. A long time ago I said The Legend of Zelda for the NES was cryptic to the max. It's a game that's cryptic to the max. This was before I played Metroid. I'm a different person now. I promise. It's so easy to get lost, man. Most of the rooms look the same, there's no map or anything. Okay, I'll roll with the punches. I googled a map, so now this game's gonna be fun, right? No! You can only shoot up and straight, meaning enemies are often in the worst places and they're really difficult to hit. Getting upgrades is initially fun, but even when you fully upgrade your weapon, it's weak as piss and you're just taking out nothing. And even when you die, you're left with 30 health and no missiles. So before the final fight, I grinded for, no joke, an hour, just running back and forth killing the same enemy type over and over again. It's a game that's clunky as it is frustrating. Bosses are just bullet sponges, enemies will attack you during door transitions. It's a game that's so ambitious, but it's ruined by a restrictive moveset and a lack of direction. I really see what this game's going for, and with some small tweaks, it could be a really fun game. But if I take it for what it is, it's worse than The Legend of Zelda. Now, if there's one genre that never really clicked with me, it would be the JRPG. I've played 2 for this channel, which I've really enjoyed, like Chrono Trigger is incredible, though my reason for distasting the genre as a whole is exacerbated in the next 2 games, Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest III, or Dragon Warrior III. The scope of these games are no doubt impressive, but it's the core mechanics that frustrate me. I knew I wouldn't have time to play through both of them all the way through, so I played both at roughly the same time, and ending up dropping the one that wasn't as interesting to me. So take that for what you will. Both have a lot in common. Both have a party of 4 completely customizable characters, big open world in a fantasy setting, turn-based combat, though I think visually, Final Fantasy is the better title. The sprite art is really impressive, but to be honest, I actually found it the weaker of the 2. The combat is so frustrating. So many mechanics are straight up broken. You can attack an enemy just to miss because another party member already took them out. You can spend crazy amounts of money on buying spells which use charges instead of the traditional MP setup, leading you to easily run out. Now with Dragon Warrior 3, it was actually a lot better in this department. You gain new spells when you level up, MP is used to cast said spells, with me actually having enough to get me through most areas. Now, I don't hate turn-based combat. If it's done well, it can actually be a lot of fun. However, what I do hate is random encounters and the difficulty balancing. There are a few times where these games basically say, right, that's it, stop having fun, go grind XP and money so you can attempt the boss again. I also found both games had a pretty generic story, but I'm not gonna lie, I was actually charmed by the wacky antics of Dragon Warrior 3. Now, why did I put the game down? It's because of, instead of this, where I was having fun, I mostly got this. The random encounter rates are so unbelievably bad. You can spend, no joke, 2 or 3 hours in one dungeon. Not because it's difficult, not because it's too big and confusing, but because every time you make a step, you just back into a fight. If these dungeons had like 10 enemies, followed by a boss, the overall game would be, no joke, about 20 hours shorter, and it would honestly be better for it. This just completely ruins the pace, which pisses me off because I actually enjoyed myself and I wanted to keep going. I wanted to play more of this game, but the random encounters were just too much. In Final Fantasy's case, I just didn't find it engaging at all. I will beat Dragon Quest III eventually, just not the NES version. So both games are better than The Legend of Zelda, but Dragon Warrior 3 is just inching out Final Fantasy. I thought next I'd try something a little bit more action-packed. I decided to play Contra. Now, this game is awesome, but I hate it. I know, what a contradiction, am I right? Oh, so the NES can handle shooting in 8 directions. Oh, it would have been nice in Metroid. I've not actually played this style of game before, but I've always wanted to play Cuphead, so the interest is definitely there. And I've got to say, it controls really well. The 3D sections are really impressive, and getting power-ups is very satisfying. The only annoying thing is not being able to go back left, or falling to my death despite being in that area a couple seconds ago. Oh, I died on the second stage. Well, no big deal. No. Oh, for fuck's sake! Fuck this fucking console! I'm currently recording this part of the video as I'm playing through Contra, as I just sort of wanted to put my heart on the line and say something unscripted. I work a full-time job, and every day I come home from work to play these NES games for this video, and I'm just feeling burnt out. My hands ache, I'm neglecting certain parts of my life, my relationship, my general duties at home, all for this video, and it's just getting too much. And knowing that dying to a boss in Contra means I have to play the entire game all over again is just too much. I've played games on the hardest difficulty, in fact I mostly do, but it's in how these NES games punish you which just seems unfair. Now I don't want to try and take your enjoyment of these games away from you or tell you how it's invalid, because we all enjoy things for different reasons, but though there is fun to be had in these games, I'm mostly just miserable as I'm playing through these. But I'm going to try and do my best to make the best video possible, and I'm going to get this video out to you as soon as I can. So this is where I'd rank Contra, and let's move on to the next game. Dr. Mario is a very simple game to pick up and play, but that's not a bad thing. Puzzle games have a timeless quality to them, and this is no exception. It's extremely addictive and really difficult to master, but if you just want something to pick up and play, you can't go wrong with Dr. Mario. It's honestly a hard game to talk about, as what you can see is literally the whole game, and due to that it's a hard one to place. Obviously it's not as ambitious as something like Final Fantasy, but if I go off just how much I enjoyed it, I'd put it about here. Now I'm feeling a little bit more energised. I've had a little bit of a break from NES games for a few days, not playing any other games but just writing scripts for upcoming videos. So now that I'm more motivated, let's play some Castlevania III Dracula's Curse. I'm surprised this game wasn't more controversial for its character designs, to be honest. Oh, hang on, wrong game. Here we go. The presentation is really on point, with great designs for enemies and very detailed backgrounds. The music is also pretty great. It's just a shame that the controls are wank. Trevor Belmont can only whip straight ahead of him, being able to jump and crouch, making hitting enemies, especially above you, nightmarish. You have got sub-weapons to help out a little bit, but not only can you only equip one at a time, they also use up ammunition that you can run out of. The enemies also respawn and have insane knockback, so that's fun. The platforming is even worse, so you can't land on stairs, which there are a lot of in this game, but also Trevor has a set jump arc and has no mid-air movement, so whereas in Metroid I could easily reposition myself in mid-air, in Castlevania you fall like a ton of bricks. There are multiple playable characters, but Cypher and Grant don't have the range of the whip. You can also only have 2 characters at a time, unfortunately. If I could land on stairs, whip in multiple directions and control myself in midair, this would be a great time. But seeing as I'm ranking these based on my own personal enjoyment, it's below Dragon Warrior 3 and it just about beats out Contra. I've got time for one more game, and there is one game that I really need to play. And guys, this is it. The magnum opus of the NES. Super Mario Bros. 3. They did it. The controls are tight, the difficulty curve is perfect, the pixel art is great, the music is fantastic. We all know what Mario is, and why he still endures as Nintendo's mascot, and it's clear to see why. If I was being objective, this would be the best game on the NES, hands down. There is just one tiny problem though. I just don't give a piss about Mario. I really don't get it. Like, I'm sorry, this game is perfect, it's flawless, I couldn't pick out one thing to criticise about it, but it just does not keep me engaged. I'd rather play platformers such as Shovel Knight or Donkey Kong Country. This is a my opinion thing wholeheartedly. I understand why this game's great, I understand why people love it, it just ain't for me. So, I'm going to rank all the games now. Let's go through them all. We have Metroid, The Legend of Zelda, Final Fantasy, Dr. Mario, Contra, Castlevania III, Dragon Warrior 3, Super Mario Bros. 3, Mega Man 2, DuckTales, and finally, Punch-Out! So what did I learn from playing only NES games for an entire month? Well, first off, there's not a single title where I didn't walk away wanting to try more of a franchise. So, did I have a good time? Kind of. These games frustrate me with how close they are to being incredible, whether it's due to clunky controls, harsh punishment upon failure, or obtuse level design. Most of these games are short and only extended by being either really slow, confusing, or difficult. However, I understand why people might like them. Games that emulate the arcade experiences have definitely held up to an extent, and it's impressive how set in stone JRPGs were at the time, or just how they nailed 2D platformers so early on. I would recommend trying these games if you're a fan of the franchise, but if you've never played them before, I wouldn't say they're the best entry point. For Legend of Zelda, for example, I would be more inclined to recommend A Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, or even Breath of the Wild. I know this was an overwhelmingly negative video, but know that I understand and appreciate how groundbreaking these games were at the time. I just cannot force myself to enjoy them if I simply don't, but I will never try and take away your enjoyment of those games. You just play whatever makes you happy. This was a really interesting experiment. I'm sorry that this video took so long. The next one is going to be very fast and a little bit smaller scale. I wouldn't mind doing something like this again, maybe on the Game Boy, the Sega Master System. I mean, the sky's the limit, honestly. I'll be happy to do whatever. So let me know if that interests you. And if you want me to do a more extensive look on any of these games that I've covered at all, just let me know. I'll give it the full nostalgia treatment. Let me know in the comments what your favourite NES games are and why. I'm always open to other perspectives. And why not check out my other videos and subscribe? You won't subscribe though, will you? Yeah, I'm calling you out. You big, smelly, poopy bum face. Bet you like big poops and you wouldn't even subscribe, would you? Bye.